Hello.
Good morning,
David.
Good morning, Christopher.
One short.
We're one short, yeah. The Reverend Neary is taking a well-deserved half-term break with her family.
Do you know what my brother used to say to his employees?
No, I've no idea because I don't know your brother, but you'll tell me.
He used to say holiday is overrated. I'm not quite sure I agree, especially when it comes to me having time off.
Yeah, apparently my illustrious predecessor but one, Canon Boyles, didn't believe in days off and that. He said we should be working all the time. Apparently people keep telling me when they rail at the fact that I can't do a funeral on a Friday or find it impossible to go to a coffee morning or something on a Friday because it's a day off.
I constantly get that. You've got to do this, you've got to do that. What's a day off for? Oh, have another day off.
However, Reverend Neary is entitled to a holiday, and I hope she's enjoying herself fully.
And I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, and I think one of the plans was to go and see a particular movie with the family. I can't remember. Maybe Spider-Man. Is that a new movie at the moment? Spider-Man.
Well, I don't know. I don't do movies really.
No, not a great movie.
It has to drag me kicking and screaming whenever we go to the cinema.
Yeah, I mean, I normally make my 3 yearly visits to the cinema around James Bond for my good lady wife. Yeah,
well, my problem is I have an attitude of why pay to go to the cinema when you know in a year's time it will be free on the television.
Chris, you're beginning to show. I mean, I know you're a Devonian, but you begin to show a kind of Yorkshire spirit there. You know. There's too many programs on Yorkshire on the telly. Obviously, I'm beginning to see this trait in people, you know.
Yeah, it must be, mustn't it, eh? You've got to...
Yeah, or I don't try to upset anybody from Russia. If you are a Yorkshire person watching it, I do love you really, although my father was a Lancastrian, so you can see where the divide comes.
What a divide there.
Yeah, you can see the divide, I'm afraid. So there we are. And of course my eldest daughter lives up in that kind of part of the world in Manchester, which is where we're going tomorrow.
Oh.
We're going to spend a couple of days up in Manchester because you may remember the January trip had to be postponed due to all the COVID-y stuff.
No, I didn't remember, but I'm sure if I went back and watched,
we always go in our January break and see her. Yeah. But we had to cancel because COVID was so rife up there. But like everywhere else, I think it's starting to decline quite well up there.
Good. Well, let's hope so.
Yeah, well, so and she wants to take us because she's very proud of the fact, in my eldest daughter Alice, of the fact that she was instrumental in setting up a new business for the company, which is called Nell's Pizzas.
Oh.
And she booked us a table to take us to Nell's Pizzas because she wants to show it us. Now, I'm told that the pizzas are start at £25 each.
I hope that's a really, really, really big pizza or a really, really good pizza.
I think that the idea is that if you pay £25 or £36 for the full Monty type of thing, it feeds about 6. So the students all go and share together. That's what it's about. But
yeah,
she wants to go
to a restaurant in Exeter. They used to sell a Dustbin Lid Pizza.
Really?
It was supposed to be the size of a dustbin lid.
Well, Alice, when she was at school before she went to university, worked for a transport cafe, a well-known transport cafe in Shropshire on the main road that took all the lorries from the Midlands up to Anglesey, to get the boat across to Ireland. And they used to do what they called the Desperate Dan breakfast. And the Desperate Dan breakfast consisted of about 20 sausages and a half a side of bacon and, 15 rounds of fried bread and black pudding and beans and, a whole chicken full of eggs type of thing. And if you ate it all, you didn't pay. And all these bikers would turn up, we'll have the Desperate Dan, and couldn't eat it. And then these slim girls with them in their leathers would eat the whole thing, And Alice said it's just quite fun watching people tuck in. The only problem, of course, there was so much waste.
Yeah. There was, a few years ago, I saw that it hit the news. There was going across the pond, there was a burger chain that did a burger, and they just called it the heart attack burger.
Yes, I remember that. Yeah, I remember that.
And I think that was the same, wasn't it? If you managed to eat it, you got it for free.
If I remember right, it was stacked as high as the Empire State Building with burgers and cheese and bacon and all the rest of the stuff, wasn't it?
Yeah. I've never tried that.
No, I don't think I would want to either. As much as I like a nice burger occasionally.
Probably wouldn't be here if we had.
That's right. Well, exactly. But I'll report back on the Nell's Pizza experience.
We look forward to the Nell's Pizzas next week.
Yeah, I'll report back. And if ever you're going to Manchester, I can give you the address, and you can go and visit as part of the Manchester experience.
The Manchester experience.
Anyway, Chris, I think we ought to get back, because this week we've got one of clergy's favourite moments in time, haven't we?
Oh, it keeps going on and on and on. I mean, I think it's one we have 3 times a year.
Yeah.
So it must be important.
Well, we won't tell her what it is.
And it's probably the reason why Joe's on holiday.
Yeah, well, you and I had to face this up last year together. Do you remember? Because you were on a sabbatical last year on this week.
On a sabbatical last year, yeah. So obviously Joe's not a Transfiguration person.
Not into the Transfiguration at all. Hang on a second. I'm being spoken to by the door. Pardon?
There's a water bottle.
Which one? I don't know.
I don't know.
No. Our grandson visited last night, dear viewer, and left his water bottle. We've had a message from his mother to say, could we put the water bottle ready for collection? But we can't find the water bottle.
Oh.
My wife was just asking, where is the water bottle?
There's the mystery of the disappearing water bottle.
Yeah, I think Kenneth Branagh could make an Agatha Christie film for us to go and see, you and me together.
I was just thinking about Cluedo. You know, it was done by the rector in the study
with the water bottle.
With the water bottle.
With the water bottle. Yes. Yep. I think every Cluedo box should have a water bottle from now on. Anyway, as you've given the game away, shall we take a pause and you can read from Luke chapter 9, I believe. Go on, Christopher, off you go.
Luke chapter 9. Now, about 8 days after these sayings, Jesus took with him Peter and John and James and went up on the mountain to pray. And while he was praying, the appearance of his face changed, and his clothes became dazzling white. Suddenly, they saw 2 men, Moses and Elijah, talking to him. They appeared in glory and were speaking of his departure, which he was about to accomplish at Jerusalem. Now Peter and his companions were weighed down with sleep. But since they had stayed awake, they saw his glory and the 2 men who stood with him. Just as they were leaving him, Peter said to Jesus, "Master, it is good for us to be here. Let us make 3 dwellings. One for you, one for Moses, one for Elijah," not knowing what he had said. While he was saying this, a cloud came and overshadowed them, and they were terrified as they entered the cloud. Then from the cloud came a voice that said, "This is my son, my chosen. Listen to him." When the voice had spoken, Jesus was found alone, and they kept silent, and in those days told no one of any of these things that they had seen. On the next day, when they had come down from the mountain, a great crowd met him. Just then a man from the crowd shouted, "Teacher, I beg you to look at my son. He is my only child." Suddenly a spirit seizes him, and all at once he shrieks. It throws him into convulsions until he foams at the mouth. It mauls him and will scarcely leave him. I begged your disciples to cast it out, but they could not. Jesus answered, "You faithless and perverse generation, How much longer must I be with you and bear with you? Bring your son here. While he was coming, the demon dashed him to the ground in convulsions, but Jesus rebuked the unclean spirit, healed the boy, and gave him back to his father. And all were astounded at the greatness of God, while everyone was amazed at all that he was doing. He said this to his disciples.
Well, there we are. This reading is always on the Sunday before Lent begins, isn't it?
It is.
And of course, Lent does begin on Wednesday because it's Ash Wednesday.
It is. And are you having an Ash Wednesday ashing service?
We're having 3 in the team. One in the morning.
I've got one at Simonsbury, dear viewer. You're welcome to come.
Good. Well, we've got
Simonsbury.
We've got one in Beaminster in the morning. We've got one in Beaminster in the evening, and we have one in Sebra, because Sebra is becoming a bit of a festival church in effect. We're not telling anybody that because you have to sign all kinds of things, but they are. So there'll be one at Sebra. So if you want to go to Sebra, it'll be from the Book of Common Prayer, and our good colleague Fiona's trying to work out how you put ashings and stuff into BCP. But of course, it's there for a reason. Because part of the story, this prepares us for seeing God's glory, and then there's all this veiling, and don't we symbolically veil things in church for Lent? I don't see many churches putting veils over the crosses and things anymore, or over pictures of Jesus. But they used to. I'm sure some must do.
Powerstock does around Good Friday rather than all of Lent.
Yeah. But it's that symbolic veiling, so we don't see Jesus face to face, but we prepare for his glory on Easter Day, don't we?
And we eat more frugally, which is why we have a feast on Shrove Tuesday, using up all our goodies.
Yeah, that's true. It's true. Well, that's the theory anyway. Of course, if I take this on board, I will be only half myself by the end of Lent.
Yes, I think we're evidence that we're not very good at these things.
Yeah, I'm a perfectly good example of how not to be frugal. So I'm going to have to take that up. Frugal is a good word. Yeah, I think that's right. Don't you find that part of for Lent, it's actually easy giving up things, but we give the wrong things up, don't we? You know, it's the trivial things as opposed to, you know, the things we're perhaps meant to concentrate on, like giving up not being good or not talking about people or whatever that may be.
Yeah, I often like the idea of taking on something at Lent, taking on an extra spiritual discipline.
Yeah, I think that's always what I've tried to do. I try my very best. But it is about seeing God's glory and recognising God, and of course Moses and the others. I mean, I've always got into trouble with Reverend Neely because I always say, "Isn't Peter stupid? Who'd want to build 3 houses on the top of a hill or a mountain?" But of course, Peter's just recognising the greatness of the fathers of the past, and trying to, I guess, I don't know, perhaps trying to put it all together with how come they're here with Jesus now. You know, it's.
Yeah, I think also you've got. We want to remember these spectacular events. You know, if Jesus was up there and visibly with God, visibly with the ancient patriarchs, the likes of Moses and Elijah, it's such a memorable event, such a divine event.
Yep.
That these events often don't happen every day. You want to remember it. So you're going to want to build something to say, actually, it's here that this happened.
Yeah.
And we need, I think, you know, as human beings, we need these little memories. We need these reminders of these memories.
Mm.
And if you just talk for a minute, David, I'm going to go and get a memory out of my cupboard.
You go and get a memory and I will talk. Yeah, I mean, having been to the Mount of the Transfiguration when I did my visit to the Holy Land, it's quite amazing because there is this great, wonderful and beautiful church there when you get there. and you just can't help but be struck by the awe and wonder of that story, and this church, which represents the story that Chris has just read to us, and being able to see God's glory through other people's skill and work and art, I think is just amazing, and that's what struck me on the Mount of the Transfiguration, the beauty that have been put into building that church, at which they remember this particular story.
And of course, whenever we get anywhere as human beings, when I was up there, right next to these lovely, glorious churches, was a shop.
Yes, there is.
And I bought this green stole in that shop.
Yeah.
So this stole was purchased on the top of Mount Tabor when I went to the Mount of the Transfiguration.
Yeah.
So, which I do bring out, and I wear this stole when we celebrate the Feast of the Transfiguration. So I shall be wearing this one on Sunday.
Well done.
So there's my memory. That's to remind me that I went to the top of Mount Tabor where Jesus was transfigured.
Yeah.
And of course, my other memory was you're on the top of the mountain with fantastic views.
Mm-hmm.
But because of, you could only see about 20 foot in front of you.
Yeah, but of course, you don't walk there. You must have been taken up in one of the mini buses that travel up and down that mountain.
Yes.
Day after day, yeah. It's quite interesting because you arrive at the foot in your big coach, and then you're all put onto small minibuses.
Small minibuses.
Yeah, and
ferried up there, and it's just a big tourist attraction.
But it is, as you say, it's a stunning view. And can you imagine what Jesus must have seen, or Peter, when they were on the top there? Let alone the fact that these two fathers of old suddenly appear and come in and get involved as well. It's a fascinating place.
But it's also, I think, amazing when you think how long it lasts. We read the story of Peter saying, "Let's build a house for you, Moses and Elijah."
Yep.
Well, 2,000 years later, we can go to the top of that mountain, and there's a church with a chapel for Moses and a chapel for Elijah, and
that's right.
So 2,000. So we're reading something in the Bible, and 2,000 years later, you can go to that same place, and what was said in the Bible is there.
And that is the for me, that was the real thing about my experience of going to the Holy Land. You can suddenly put things into context. Before I'd been.
Oh. Sorry, dear viewer, it looks like David's frozen. We'll have to get a bit more of his context when he comes back. David, you might have to repeat that, because we got to the phrase of putting it in context when you go to the Holy Land, and then you temporarily froze.
Did I? Well, I was just saying that having been there, I knew all the stuff before, but when you go there, you can suddenly put into context everything that you've read or seen. Because you go to these places and it becomes real for you, doesn't it? So like you, I'm sure I remember sitting on the lake, the stilling of the storm last week. I remember sitting on the lake on the boat. When you go to Jerusalem and you see all the historical sites there, you can't help but begin to, I don't use the word be affected by it. It does affect your whole life, or it did for me. It became such an actual real thing. Although I believed it to be real before, you experience it in a different way, don't you?
Well, that was it. And I think I still remember there was one of the guys who was with me when we were on the side of the lake, of the Sea of Galilee.
Yeah.
And of course, it's 6 miles wide or whatever. So you've got the mountains on the other side in the country. And he said, look, the height of the river might be slightly different. The trees are probably different in 2,000 years. But if Jesus was stood here, he would have had the same view.
Yeah.
Of all those mountain ranges at the other side and the Golan Heights and things.
That's right.
Which is, it puts it in real context. I'm standing in the same place that Jesus was at some point.
Mm-hmm.
And of course the historians are pretty accurate on a lot of these places of where Jesus was.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So when you're up on the mountain, and you read these stories, I'm sure you did when you went to the church up on the hill there. As I remember it being read by Tim Byers to us, and we thought about it. You begin to see God's glory, and then that bit at the end that you read about the man wanting his son healed. That's another side of God's glory, isn't it? Because the son is healed and given back to his father, and yet again, there's something very special about that story. That's why I guess that's why it's been attached to the story of what happens on the top of the hill.
Well, I suppose it's also this is the glory of God on the top of the hill. This is the Transfiguration. This is the divine Jesus.
Yep.
And then he comes down, and this is the authority he has. He has the power to cure demons.
Yeah.
So it's a practical use.
So we're coming to the last Sunday then before Lent. Lent begins, as we said, next Wednesday, and then we've got the journey through that. And we're going to, as we enter Lent, I guess we're looking and going to see the glory of God, but we're going to see it in the face of the suffering Jesus, as opposed to the Jesus on top of the hill.
Yeah.
Which is a good journey to take. And as I often will say at this point, we've got to go through all that experience that Jesus has, which we record during Lent, being out in the wilderness for 40 years, the triumphal entry into Jerusalem, the arrest, the false trial, the crucifixion. But if we don't go through all that, we can't share in the glory of Easter Day.
Yeah. And then, what's the phrase? Without Good Friday, there's no Easter Sunday.
Exactly. No, exactly.
Our preparations begin.
Yeah, so our preparations are beginning. And as we do every year, on this Sunday before Lent, some of you will be preaching on the Transfiguration.
You're implying that you're not, David.
I'm not here. I'm in Manchester, aren't I? However, of course, I will get 2 more opportunities later in the year, because the Feast of the Transfiguration is about the 6th of August, if I remember correctly.
It is. But I presume if you're up in Manchester, you'll be going to listen to somebody else preaching on the Transfiguration to get somebody else's insight into it all.
Usually the cathedral. We tend to go to the cathedral when we go to Manchester. And
is that Paul Bayes?
Sorry?
Is that Paul Bayes, the Bishop of Manchester?
No, Bishop of Manchester, a chap called David Walker, who I know very well, because he was Archdeacon, then Bishop of Dudley. And we used to play cricket against him. He played for Worcester Diocese, and I played for Lichfield. And I've often stood behind the stumps. In fact, I've stumped him a couple of times. But he's a nice man. Nice man, David. And he's there. But one of the retired clergy who works at the cathedral was the former principal of Salem College, Holgate, David Holgate. And I've seen him preach a few times when we've been up there.
I look forward to hearing what these wise men have to say.
Yeah, well, normally, of course, we're up there at Epiphany or that kind of time. So it is about wise men in those days, but this time it'll be about what people see on top of a hill, I'm sure.
When it's cloudy.
And veiling and shining faces and all the rest of it. All that make up that wonderful story, which we get 3 attempts at this year.
Yeah.
And every year.
And on that note...
On that note, yes, so we look forward to welcoming back our third amigo next week, and all will be well. In the meantime, dear viewer, you can follow us on all the usual things, especially the Egerton to Loaders, Powers.com, everywhere else. Oh, Chris, I always forget it, don't I?
The benefits of Egerton and Culvers.
That's the one.
And Harry's very good at putting the correct web address up and the Facebook page up at the end.
It is.
Just leave that to Harry rather than we get confused.
Yeah, he's a good man, and he'll do that. And of course, you can follow us on the Beaminster Team and the website. Are you still TikToking as well, Chris?
I'm still TikToking.
Good.
I did a TikTok last week which had 1,000 people watch it.
Wow. Excellent. That's good. That's what I like to hear. So, Divya, it's good to see you. Thank you for joining us again. We hope that you have a good Transfiguration Sunday, and do join us for Lent and on Rev Chat, and perhaps you may like to join us for one of our Lent courses. We're doing a course called the Women of Holy Week, Chris. I don't know what you're doing. Women of Holy Week.
Yeah. I'm doing exactly the same.
Excellent. By Paula Gooder.
40 Hidden Women, it was called.
Oh no! Have you got the other one? The 40 Women. You're doing the 40.
That one. That's the one I'm basing mine on.
Yeah, well, I'm reading that for myself, but we're doing the Paula Gooder book. You'd have known Paula Gooder, of course, at Theological College, wouldn't you?
Yes.
You were there. Yeah.
Yes, one of the most eminent preachers of today, really, and theologians.
Yeah, and of course, Canon Chancellor of St Paul's Cathedral, London, at the moment. So do join us if you'd like to know more about our Lent course. You'll see them on the website. There'll be all kinds of courses on different days in the Beaminster team. I'm sure the same in Chris's patch, and indeed across the deanery. But we look forward to seeing you again next week.
Thank you, dear viewer. Bye.